Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to EU League. It's week 2, which means we have Playday number 3 right up against us. Thank you so much for joining us. With me here on the analyst desk at the start is Jess and Gio. Girls, how are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Whew. I'm good, but it's freezing here, and I hear it's very warm on the other side of the hemisphere, so I'm very jealous.
Yeah, I can tell you that much. It's even sunny in the UK. That's how bad it's getting here. So that's something to keep in mind in the future. Before that, for everybody that's watching at home, you might have missed the scorelines so far in our matches. Of course, with 10 teams, we're going through 5 best of ones in each play day. Let's take a look at those rankings, and we'll see the points and where we stand all so far. So, in just a second, there it is. BDS, number 1 with 6 points. BDS are very happy with all that, I'm pretty sure. G2 at 4, same as Tempra, newcomers to the league off of Challenger League last season. Rogue and Team Empire at 3. 2 points for both Navi and Secret with their ties. And you'll see Chaos, Vitality at 1 point, also with ties, 1 tie and a loss. Finally, Virtus.pro, 2 losses. The winners of the European Open Clash, not able to scrape anything together so far. And I want to stress this again, so far. So a lot of things to kind of unpack in this. Anything you guys want to say before we kind of go into it on those rankings?
God, I've got nothing to say. Do you have anything to say, Gio? I'm just excited for this day to get going.
I think just everyone had some ideas of how it's going to be coming into this season, and so far it's looking like a lot of them have been turned on their heads.
Definitely so. It definitely is the complete flip of what we were expecting only a month ago. So let's take a look at some of our statistics. Usually, this is the segment where you can farm some Reddit karma, and we definitely have that ready for you. Some operator picks and bans, and we'll start off with our attackers. There they are. Ash at 78%, Sledge at 61%, and Zofia at 60%. But there's a lot of flexibility in what these attacking operators are showing here.
Milosh, I just want to point out here, 78% pick rate for Ash. We haven't seen this since there was an ACOG back on the R4C, right? That used to be the go-to, throw it on the R4C, you've got your ACOG, run in, gun, there you go. So now that we're seeing Ash in a lot of prevalence, I think she offers really good soft breach. I think that's really important. A lot of teams are pairing her with the Zofia. So with all these shields on the board, why not?
I mean, Geo Thatcher has been banned all the time now, and you're starting to see other operators kind of take that stand.
Yeah, no, we see obviously all 3 of the Heart Breachers above him, Nomad above him. Yana was also above him, who obviously she's kind of brand new into the options for this season, and a lot of teams have been using her for that kind of human drone sort of idea. You can send in her Geminis to get some intel, but it's kind of crazy seeing him so low. It's sort of like, we missed you.
We definitely do. Our SAS operators know we're here, and Kali's kind of starting to take the mantle. So I'm really excited to see more of that. I know Dez is sitting here and kind of twirling his hands at maybe the possibility of Oregon today with Kali on it. So that is our attacking side. Let's take a look at our defenders, though. As usual, all operators are in there. The pick rate all matters on every single round, because of course you can ban people for an entire match, but you have to pick them for every single round. So we'll go ahead and take a look at those defenders. Gonna take a look at what they have in store for us, because I've had a lot of Mira bans. That's kind of to be expected, right? We're in Europe. Maestro has been getting banned every now and then. And we really want to preface things and remind everybody that Echo is currently banned from competitive play automatically due to certain issues that are found with the operator. That's something to look at later on. So just going to bring that up in a second. There it is. Okay, there's definitely someone that's way up there.
Look, I spoke about Ash, and you're not a real Ash main if you're not also a Jaeger main, and that 96%, whew, that's a good one there. I would like to point out Wamai 45%. A lot of people said, you know what, no one's going to bring Jaeger anymore. They've nerfed him to a 2-speed. Wamai exists now. Baby, he's got double what Wamai has in pick rate, and if you put them together, whew, that's a sharp storm.
I mean, I think it actually says quite a lot, the fact that half the time that Jaeger is being brought, there is also also being a Wamai brought along. It goes to show that people are really investing into this kind of meta where they're anti-projectile and preventing a lot of that from coming in. That's why we see things like very high sledge pick, Maverick's more popular at the moment because people are trying to use those frag grenades a bit more now that Buck doesn't have them. And so a lot of these defensive teams are investing one of those slots in their operator selection to be able to go against that.
Well. Let's take a look at our next graphic as usual. It's our schedule. As usual, 10 teams that are going to be playing here. Best of ones. If you guys just came in from watching APAC, we don't have overtime in EU. Kind of just go through things as they are. Our first matchup is Virtus.pro versus Chaos Esports. That's something we're going to dig into in just a minute. Empire versus G2, Secret versus BDS, Rogue versus Navi, and finally Vitality versus Tempra. So many storylines to talk about because you come in with super rosters, but those super rosters take a while to kind of mesh together and turn into games. I don't want to spoil too much, but we're going to talk about those later on. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited for this Playday. So let's start off with our first game, Chaos versus Virtus.pro, and we actually have a head-to-head matchup to kind of go through between two players that we deem a bit interesting to look into for these two. And we're going to bring them up in just a second. But Jess, I want to go to you first. There it is. Shate on Chaos, performing well, definitely in comparison to VP. But what are things to look at for these players and Chaos specifically?
Well, I mean, the reason that we chose these two players specifically is a lot of the time flex and support players don't really, get chucked up on screen. We just throw the fraggers up there. So I said, you know what, let's bring the flex players in from both of these teams. Unfortunately for Virtus.pro, they haven't had a lot of rounds for us to collect data on. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of a skew here. But for Shate specifically, he's the guy that's the full flex player predominantly. You'll see him on things like Gridlock. We've seen him on Nomad, for example. So he is predominantly that flank hold player, and they are very underestimated. They're very important players on the attack. A lot of playmakers on defense tend to get around those flank holds, and that's when you see really big plays happening. So his job is very vital for the attacking side, and he's been doing pretty well. And I mean, on defense, he plays things like Doc, Valkyrie, for example. He's good with the intel on the flex. So I've been impressed with him so far, and most of you who've been in the scene for as long as I have know Shate is a guy who is well experienced all the way back in the days of Penta and everything. So I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I just would like to see a little bit more synergy between the players and his ability to be a flex player.
I mean, Geo, Virtus.pro have been only able to gather 4-round victories. What happened with their EOC winners?
I mean, it's been a little bit disappointing. And one of the theories that people have is that they threw everything into EOC and suddenly all these other teams know exactly what they're going to go for. And now that we're here in EU League, they're incredibly easy to read. And I mean, Pasha actually was one of those players who really showed up in the EOC. Not only is he a great flex player, but he was always one of those players who you could count on to be able to get great clutches. And so that meant that there was a lot of extra firepower coming in from Virtus.pro than what you might expect from another team where people are more stringently in those roles and not necessarily able to frag out quite as much. Pasha had a really difficult game on the first day against Team Empire, showed up a little bit better against Tempra, but in fact, he actually was the highest rated player of that game, but it's still kind of not enough. You can have one player who's doing really great, but if the rest of the team aren't showing up quite as much, it's not gonna be enough. And you look back to his stats from Pro League Season 11, he had the highest number of plants, he had a positive KD, he's sort of doing bits of everything, as you would expect from a player in this role, but he's not being necessarily enabled quite as much so far in the EU League.
Yeah, and it's definitely something to explore a bit deeper and dive into once we have our map pick bans. And I do believe that they are ready for us to kind of show for everybody. So let's put them up on the board before we dive in. We've seen these teams kind of go through on a few maps here and there, but how is it going to look like? Cafe Dostoevsky. All right, again, for people that don't know this, 7 map pool, best of 1, no overtime. You can tie at a 6-6 scoreline, and you only get 1 point, 1 point for each team. You win, you get 3. You lose, well, sorry, you get nothing today. Cafe Dostoevsky is going to be on. We've seen it played so far a couple times here in EU, but you want to look into Chaos. For example, they played against BDS on Consulate. Before that, against Tempra on Coastline. So we're trying to still figure out which maps Chaos are really digging their teeth into, because they've had sort of a shift in their play and even in players coming into this very first season, Jess.
Yeah, look, what actually most surprises me is that they've let Cafe get through. And I say this for VP's detriment here, is because Chaos over the past few playdays actually hasn't banned it. They've actually pushed it almost all the way to the deciding map. And the other team has decided, well, we don't want to play Cafe against you. And I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind that, but Chaos hasn't banned it themselves. So that's really interesting. It means that they're confident on this map. It means that surely they're comfortable if they're trying to push it to the decided map every single playday. And I'm interested to see whether or not that's because they feel they're going to do well on it. You've got VP who have been stalling out consistently, but they're almost like Empire-like in their attack pushes. So I expect VP to do well on their attack. If Chaos is as confident as it sounds like they are on Cafe, I would be worried for VP here today.
I mean, I had a speak to Fresh, who's the newest analyst for Chaos, and he said actually they were expecting to maybe go to Cafe. And so it sounds like Chaos are going to be a little bit more prepared for this. They said that they feel really confident. They have a broad map pool, so they know that they'd be able to, deal with whatever it is that Virtus.pro are going to take them to. But I think one thing that's really interesting to note is that, Virtus.pro, back when they were fours in Pro League Season 11, there were only 2 maps that they had a positive win differential on, and that was Clubhouse and Consulate. Both of those maps were the first 2 that Chaos have banned in this matchup, but they're also the only 2 maps that Virtus.pro have played so far in the EU League and have lost both times. So while, I don't want to be setting them up for failure before the matches even happened, I'm very invested in this team. I think they're so much fun to watch. It does make me a little bit concerned when you think about the fact that what is supposed to be their strengths have been stripped away from them, and they haven't been able to show up on them anyway in their own right so far in this tournament. So going to a map that isn't necessarily going to work out so well to their playstyle, unless they've been working on something specifically, I suspect that Chaos is going to be feeling very happy about how the map bans have gone.
And Jess, I want to turn my attention to you here for a moment. From speaking from your experience as a coach, there are so many times and so many play days that you had in your career where you had only a bit of space and a bit of time to prepare for the next play day, different opponent, different map that you're going to play on. You have the weekend to kind of go through things. How do you prepare that mentality for your players and the strategies for that match?
Look, if I was Chaos right now, and you spoke of Fresh, of course, and I'm quite close with Fresh myself, I think he's a great analyst and has a lot of potential to give a lot to his team. And I think if he has been smart, alongside his players, they've turned around and gone, you cannot quantify VP going into this matchup, and you shouldn't. It would be irresponsible. Any good coach would turn around and go, VP knows what they've been doing thus far hasn't been working, so we should not expect that same quantity going into this matchup, unless they're crazy and they want to repeat that same downward spiral we've seen so far. So I think any good coach will turn around and go, stuff what the other team's doing, guys. We're not here to counter-strat. We're here to work on our fundamentals. If we can perfect our fundamentals going into this matchup, whatever VP throws at us should be, at least unbreakable to some extent. And then maybe if VP changes up, I expect them actually to get a little bit more aggressive. So we'll see if that plays into VP's play style, because they're lacking a lot of mentality, a lot of confidence. So I think they'll change things up. And if Chaos are smart, they won't focus so much on VP. They'll focus on themselves and what they can do right here on Cafe.
And I wonder what sort of operator bans translate into that, Gio, because you're kind of looking into your comfort as Chaos, and we've seen Chaos perform in the fragging department, right? This is something that they tend to rely on sometimes when they need to feel more comfortable. We've seen that Ash pick rate, and I'm sure that they've had a big influence on that. But what do you look forward to in this game, operator ban wise?
I mean, it's an interesting one because Virtus.pro obviously aren't one of those teams that constantly ban the same operators all the time. In fact, so far in the competition, they've banned 4 entirely different operators. But Chaos are a team that have used such a variety of combinations of operators so far in the competition, whereas Virtus.pro have been a lot more limited. Jess said it earlier, they're a bit more Empire-esque in that way. You mentioned the fact that Ash has come up a lot, but I would be surprised to see the Ash get banned, just because in the same way that Jaeger comes up a lot and you very rarely see Jaeger bans. But I don't know. So, something that Chaos were able to use really to their advantage were, Nomad and Gridlock, and going into Cafe Dostoevsky. Those are the sorts of operators that you do sort of expect to see be used pretty effectively. So it'd be interesting to see if they maybe decide to go for something like that. Something that we've seen a little bit more over the last few days across a number of the teams have been like Monty play. You don't know if that's going to come out, but we've sort of theory crafted about whether that might be a bit more popular this week. So I'm not entirely sure, but maybe something like those operators.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to ask it. So, Gio, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's like everybody prepares and does their job. How great is that, right? Jess, I want to follow up on that, Monty, because the operator has been used and abused, and specifically on Cafe. We saw that with G2 in the last Playday.
Yeah, look, I think that's more of a G2 prominence that we see from Pegu specifically. I don't think that you have these teams coming in and going, hey, let's throw an unknown quantity into the mix. I mean, I know I'm speaking about quantities a lot here, but this is what both of these teams are up against each other with, is that they're unknown quantities to each other. I think Chaos is a little bit more known. I don't think employing the Monty is the go. That's breaking the current meta, their current understanding of their play. If they want to go to Cafe and they want to run a clash, I can absolutely understand. That's a great counter. I wouldn't expect to see a shield. We haven't seen them display shields so far. And when we were talking about the bans before, at least with Geo, I think for Chaos, I mean, we've seen them ban Legion, we've seen them ban Habana, we've seen them ban a whole bunch of operators here. So if they do want to try and counter and get rid of the shield, they could. But what are they really even countering? I mean, most of the time, VP is going to ban Capital. So just let them ban it. You get a free attack ban. Move from there.
All right, let's see what people think about this matchup. You can go and vote on these matches on Twitter, of course. R6 Esports EU is the place to go. Close here between these two teams. 8% predicting a draw, 55 on Virtus.pro, and 37 to Chaos. Gio, your last markers on this and a predicted scoreline despite VP's current slump.
I actually have faith in Chaos. I think it's going to be more close than other things. So I'm going to say 7-5 to Chaos.
Okay. Jess?
Ooh, I will agree just because I'm hoping that VP puts some rounds on the board, more than 4 that they've had over the current season so far. So let's say that Chaos, surely they're comfortable on Cafe. Why else would you go there? We'll give it to Chaos here.
All right, I think we're ready to throw it over to our casters, so please say hello to our wonderful gentlemen. It's Des and Dev, all yours.
Thanks, Milos. This should be a fantastic game coming up. Des, I know you've been very eager to crack this one open. Chaos and Virtus.pro, neither of them have found a win so far in the European League, and they're both going to be gunning for that tonight. What do you see coming into this game?
Well, the analyst gave us a lot of ideas on what we can come to expect in my mind, but today I think you're going to see one of these teams back on the rise. That'd be like the Phoenix, right? Because it's been a rough couple of weeks for these two teams, none more so than Virtus.pro. They have not been having fun. They have been getting slapped around the park by everyone they've come up against. And today against Chaos, who flagged very hard against BDS. I think this could be an opportunity to see a bit of a swing back the other way, but this is the beauty of this game in my mind, is it is so hard to call. We don't know which team's going to come out on top. The only way to find out is by getting into the game, and that's exactly what we're getting into here.
Yeah, too true. Virtus.pro, as was mentioned on the analyst desk, only 4 rounds they've found so far. Chaos also, they've managed to get a draw against Tempera Playday 1, but it's been a real struggle since then. Now, Thatcher banned out from Chaos. Funnily enough, not actually one of their most common bans. I would have expected to see a Capital, but Thatcher isn't an off-meta ban or anything like that, so I guess you can't be too surprised about it at all.
The times are a changing, as they say, and in this case, it makes total sense to see that come through. Personally, was expecting a Maverick. Know that Virtus.pro really like running that on the attacking side, and given they start on the attack, it would have made sense. But no, much more focused towards the Thatcher. Mira's going to be taken away as well. No surprise, we see it all the time in Europe, and I know that Chaos have a bit of tendency to make use of her on at top sites sometimes here. Let's see what this final ban coming out is going to be. It's going to be the Goyo. That one is definitely a target ban, as Virtus.pro love running it in their defensive lineups. They run it alongside a Mute and use that to play around C4s. So a couple of target bans coming through there, but all in all, I think relatively reasonable bans, even if they weren't target ones.
We don't actually see very many Goyo bans these days, do we, Des? When Goyo released and he had the 3 shields, we saw him banned out quite a few times. But I mean, having a look at Chaos right now and their recent bans, not through the Nordic Championships, not through the current season of EU League, and even the second half of the season 11 of Pro League, which is basically everything they've played, right? They haven't been banning that at all. So like you said, very specifically a target ban, and perhaps something that Virtus.pro wouldn't necessarily be expecting coming into this game. And if you theorycraft a little bit as to how that's going to change Virtus.pro's interpretations of these defenses, you're looking at, okay, we don't have the Goyo. Maybe we need to bring more deployable shields. And obviously no one brings as many shields as Goyo does. So it does throw out your operator composition just a little bit.
I think it makes you less comfortable, right? And a team, at the end of the day, if they're relying on shields, I have a lot of faith in Virtus.pro here to not let this shake them too much. It's very apparent to anyone who looks back over their past games that shield play is the way to go for these boys. They like it. They bring shields. They bring along the Wamai. They bring along the Jaeger. It's all about getting rid of those throwables nice and early, so shields are just constantly burning down utility until the final gunfight comes through, where the attackers are a little bit scarce on resource. So it does make sense that Chaos want to try and open things up a bit here. To me, it just screams that they want to play a little more aggressively here. Yes, the Thatcher isn't on side, but they want to be pushing into Virtus.pro when they're the ones on the defensive side of things, and be saying, look, you got nowhere to hide. Crying's coming for you, and you better be ready.
He's hungry, isn't he, Crying? Fairly new addition
Crying,
here to Chaos. All right.
You've been making dad jokes like this all day, so you can't say a word.
And I'll let you have that one. All right. Look, it's true. I'll let you have that one. But looking at this, right? Chaos come out of the gate with a target ban against VP. We're going to a map which is like, I'm just trying to think of what we can do to support VP here, because on paper, like, VP have had such a poor entry here into the EU League, only 4 rounds across 2 matches. Chaos, in theory, love this map. Like Jess was saying it, they haven't banned it so far in the EU League. It's actually not a common ban at all for them. They played it twice in the Nordic Championship against some lower level teams and smashed both of them. And they also beat G2 last season on Cafe 7-5. So on paper, this should be a playground for Chaos, and they clearly did their research because they came in and banned Goyo. What can we say as a redeeming factor for Virtus.pro here? Because they're the ones who they let this through the ban phase. They got 3 opportunities to ban it out, and they let it through. Does that maybe indicate something to us?
In my mind, when you've been beaten to death essentially on the last couple of maps we've seen them playing Consulate and Coastline, I think they want to try and slow things down a bit, right? Playing on these more fragger enabling maps, because there's a lot of windows bordering in towards sites, there's a lot of doorways you can push through. Then coming to a map like Cafe kind of sits very comfortably in my mind between things like Club and looking towards things like, I don't know, a Coastline in this case. It looks like in this first round we are in now quite early, mind you. Red Groove has been the only casualty inside about 1 minute and 30, so it's been a pretty slow start.
Yeah, we're right into it as well. Round is very much on Rask found the opening kill, but he's taken a lot of damage for it, so he will have to be cautious. And as it seems that Virtus.pro are going for an east side push. Wow, that's a huge pick. If Pasha can now take control of this whole top floor, that is just insane. He's got White Hellway control, takes down Shate. This is not a good start for Chaos. Pasha has just taken this opportunity with both hands, and now Virtus.pro getting this diffuser down. Renils can find one, but this is going to be such a difficult retake for him and Crine.
Ooh, almost got into a spot to make it happen, but hey, it's the first round over to Virtus.pro. Like you say, finding the opening kill onto Red Groove as well. Rask was the one who picked that up very early on, as we saw when we came back onto the screen. But it just feels like, from what we saw there towards the final 60 seconds of execution or so, that was a pretty straightforward walk at the enemy there, take the gunfights, get someone out on east window, so when you do go for the plant, you've got someone at the very least to cover them off. So good start for them. And at least a good sign coming in on the first attacking round to not get completely picked apart by the side of Chaos.
I'm going to sort of pick your brain a little bit on what you reckon about these east window pushes, because it's totally not the norm, in my opinion, for the vast majority of games on Cafe. We talk about that checklist, right? You open up Red Hatch, you open up New Hatch, you start working Piano, you get that control, you take out Pixel, you start to push up maybe White Hallway, maybe you Thermite open or Hard Breach with whatever util you have into Backstore, and eventually execute, and either you get a kill onto Cocktail or you end up planting. But then we see Virtus.pro insisting on this east side push, and it's something we've seen before in other VODs of them as well. Like, what is this decision to go for an off-meta push? I mean, it works, but it maybe that's something that catches Chaos a bit by surprise.
It's these things that work like that. I'm not sure if it was strictly entirely an East push. Yes, they managed to get the plant down inside of there, but we did see a couple of players inside a freezer for them, for example. But it was the fact that, like you say, they did commit 2 or 3 to playing on those East windows and trying to go for a plant inside a cocktail, which kind of gives away that the focus was definitely on the East. And I think what you're saying is right. It's trying to make the defenders uncomfortable. Very commonly, you'll see someone sat at the top of cocktail, normally a maestro, sitting there with that terrifying out or just daring someone to try and push inside a bar. It kind of creates a wonderful no man's land in the middle of the map. So what can the attackers do? They can either buy into that kind of fight and try and sit themselves across inside a cigar and go for a push across, or they can go on the east windows, push their way up white stairs, and just look to threaten them and make them feel uncomfortable from the very off. We see some teams, Secret always jump to my mind, not all a personal fanboy, I promise. Often what you'll see from these guys is they get down below on something like an Ashe and start opening up the 4 from below. So the whole thing is just saying, defenders are not allowed to be comfortable. Let's unseat them and don't let them play the strategy they want to play in this round. And as we saw, it worked pretty well for them.
Yeah, it's really tough going for those repel-centric pushes, but we're into round number 2 now, and Chaos have decided not to dwindle on that top floor, not to dwindle on their loss and move down to reading, which, in my opinion, is actually a better bomb site. It's basically cocktail, but if you lose sight, that's okay because you can go downstairs and defend reading, right? So I love this objective. And if sorry, you go. You wanted to jump in.
I was about to say, I know that Reaper's a big fan of the whole idiom of
yes,
it's bar and cocktail with extras, because it is. You do have to clear the top floor first, else you risk. I mean, to be fair, we saw some teams, Na'Vi did it a couple of times in their game, where they ignored top floor entirely and went, you know what, our focus is on the site itself. And they did manage to win a couple of rounds just by contesting those vertical angles. So it's definitely not so much a confident play, but it requires a lot of confidence from you as a team to be able to contest those vertical angles. And in their mind, well, they managed to make it work. Can you really fault them any other way?
Now, Kraos with this presence still at cocktail. Of course, you really need to clear out cocktail. It's so difficult to execute onto reading without it. But Virtus.pro already made some progress down near mining, and Chaos look to get aggressive here up bar. Shockwave likely to get aggressive upon. There are 3 players hunting him down, and they do find him. Chaos pushing back onto the top floor to control as much as possible and not let Virtus.pro make any progress upstairs.
Would have been the air jab as well that they would have had from Shockwave coming out. He did get 1 or 2 out, but not enough to, I think, to have an impact later into this round in the way that they would like. Chaos definitely holding on to the upstairs here in fine fashion. Just saying, if you really want control of above site, you're going to have to come and fight us for it. It's Pasha coming up white stairs that I've got my eye on here. He has real potential to get in and cause some damage. If he manages to find someone at the top of cocktail, will try his best, but I think he only chips away at Veto's HP bar there. Not enough to frighten him away from playing inside that position. Rascal will find a kill of his own. So for Virtus.pro, things are warming up here, despite Chaos looking like they weren't going to move from playing on this top floor.
Virtus.pro have made great progress downstairs, and Pasha finds one before traded. A mission going to execute into the bomb site and plant in the smoke. There seems to be no denial for this Veto upstairs. Cryin drops down the hatch into laundry, but he doesn't know where the plant's going down. He expects it to be in the default position, but no, in fact, it was in the smoke. Now that Cryin sees that diffuser, it may well be too late, as Virtus.pro have pushed back. However, it is a 2 versus 2, so I wouldn't count Chaos out completely.
Now with the 3K on Veto as well, the man's on a mission to make sure this round doesn't go against him. Going to make it himself a 4K in this round. It's a quad kill for him. The question is, does he know where the last one is? It is going to be this Ying on the upstairs. Going to find a kill, so it literally comes down to a 1 versus 1 with 10 seconds to go. Veto's got to stick this plant out. Oh, this is all but done. Will he get away with it? WTG has dropped down. He's looking to go for the push. He finds the kill. It was so close for Veto. The man had to get all 5 kills and a defuse. It would have been a heroic round from him, but sadly WTG just a little bit too patient for him at the bitter end of that one, and the clock was the 6th man on the team for Virtus.pro.
This is the second time we've seen Pasha push up white stairs as well. Something that perhaps we need to see Chaos be a little bit more aware of. Seems like VP getting away with a lot of ground that perhaps they shouldn't. And despite our expectations that Virtus.pro would struggle, perhaps they are showing us that those first 2 playdays were perhaps just a bit of rust. And now that they've cleaned that off, they can make a clean strike here against Chaos. Looking into their 3rd attack, and Chaos are going to continue changing up their bomb site choice. Moving now to Kitchen doesn't bode well for them, really. Doesn't show that they have a lot of confidence here in their site choices if they keep moving through them.
Yeah, I mean, that last round came close as well, right? This is one of the things that I always love catching in how teams approach things. Some will just cycle through their 3 preferential sites, and then when it gets to round 4, start the cycle again, no matter what the outcome is. Others will try a site 2, maybe 3 times if they feel confident in what they're doing. They'll try the same thing again because they know what went wrong. I guess the problem in the reading and fireplace defense for me there was it all came down to Veto finding frags for them. That was literally all they really had to play to their tune. Outside of that, they did well at holding upstairs, but had no real cover going on around Pillars area, which made things a bit too comfortable for Virtus.pro. And you saw exactly why the Ying came out as well. Smokes and Candelas just flood the site. They run and get the plant down, and no one on the other side is able to contest it. Really good execute coming out of Virtus.pro. Just a shame on the side for Veto there that he didn't manage to get the 5K and drag it all the way back. But as said, what more can you ask for someone who's got 4 kills and almost a defuse the whole way through?
If I'm Chaos there, I feel like I would have chosen to reattempt reading because you know what their strat is going to be. They're going for a mostly horizontal push, fairly light presence upstairs, and then they execute in the mining by, in reading by thermiting open the wall and planning in smoke. You can deny that from above. There were holes pre-made in bar, but the problem was for Chaos is despite Virtus.pro not really hard clearing the top floor, we saw the Nomad of Shockwave taken out fairly early. Once again, Pasha was allowed to sneak up white stairs and find at least 1 kill at clearing top floor. And if Chaos can have more success in maintaining this control and not getting cheesed up white stairs, then perhaps they could have had success there. But I suppose it's not relevant for now as they're going downstairs. However, Pasha, once again, very confident here, taking this map control with a drone right in front of him.
Yeah, look at the setup once again. It's similar to before with the Nomad and the Ying both on side. So it just screams to me once again that we're going to see a very execute-heavy setup coming out of these boys. More about trying to contain the side of Chaos here with the air jabs going down on staircases, I would imagine. However, the game is against them because in this case, Chaos are already downstairs. However, Virtus.pro definitely haven't spent a long time in getting the setup on the go, about 90 seconds in, and they are starting to smash the floor open. You contrast that to G2 versus Navi the other day, and there was a good few cases where it came down to the final 60 seconds and we were still doing the work that you see in the Sledge doing upstairs now. They were only just starting to look to get some sight hold down in towards the kitchen itself, which made things really hard for the attackers when they had to essentially rush things and start cutting corners. Very often we saw G2 running out of drones. So I'm hoping here for Virtus.pro it doesn't follow the same sort of trend, but with 60 seconds left, they do have a lot of the crucial holes open they now need to be able to restrict those that are playing downstairs inside of the site.
And that's why it's so key here for Chaos to stay alive as long as possible because Virtus.pro using that vertical play are just waiting to find picks. And once they establish that numbers advantage, they know it's okay to execute. Red Groove, though, to take down the first player. Oh, no, what? A team kill? Pasha, no. He does, I guess, trade it back, you could say. I think Red Groove actually got the injured there and Pasha only finished off the player. But still, that'll make it a big struggle for Virtus.pro. But taking control of Bakery now, the Ying looking on in to take this player. The Wamai gets taken out. That's Shate going down. And Bakery control. This is huge for Virtus.pro. And they're all piling on. It's just Vito left and he's not safe either. Virtus.pro, they might have been slow to enter the EU League, but they certainly haven't been slow here on Cafe.
Now, the attacks are looking really composed from them so far, and their approach from the east on the first round. In that round, just them making sure they had a nice, clean control of second floor and, of course, top four included. Chaos just playing very, very turtle-based there and not really doing too much moving around. Not that they had to if they felt they could find kills, but Virtus.pro don't look challenged so far. And this is my issue coming in today. My main concern was that both of these teams in previous days have looked... No one's going to hate me from saying this. They both look pretty poor. They've been rolled over by their opposition. We saw BDS for Chaos. It wasn't pretty on Consulate. And we've seen 2 really disappointing results out of Virtus.pro. But at least today, like I thought at the start we would see, one of the teams is definitely pulling ahead. As it stands so far, it's looking like the attackers in Virtus.pro.
I know there's been a lot of support for Chaos saying they're the team that's favored going into this. And specifically on Cafe, I totally agree with that. I see that. But for Virtus.pro, right, these guys, they were tied 3rd, 4th at the Raleigh Major, which was about a year ago. Like, that's 3rd, 4th in the world at a major. They were playing the best teams in the world. They also won the European Open Clash. They won the Russian Major League in a very dominant fashion. This team has been on the up and up over the last year, a rising star. And we thought maybe coming into the EU League here, they'd have something to say, but then there were those disappointing performances. I will say on Consulate just the other day against Tempera, I saw a lot of good things from Virtus.pro. Like, they had to play around with one player down and they still won it. So in particular, Pasha, I would highlight as a player to remark upon, especially his C4 play. But it's not like, I mean, coming into today, I thought, for Virtus.pro, it's probably if Pasha goes nuts and really throws off Chaos that Virtus.pro wins this. But no, it's Virtus.pro as a whole, just being the Virtus.pro that we know and love and not, leaving something behind in the bed that is maybe being the cause of this loss, because they're not.
Yeah.
They're finally showing up.
I mean, the other day when they were on console, there were 2 rounds that were single-handedly won by Pasha, finding a C4 kill out of top window when the attack was coming into garage, and then 2 more kills as he pushed his way down into yellow stairs. So it was very much a solo player game last week, and it's feeling the same here today, I guess. You might wager with them currently set at the top of the scoreboard, but there's a lot of time for the rest of the team to shine, and you might say WTG has been doing the same. Speaking of single players, though, Renewal's found himself down. Definitely not out right now, but I think he got caught by a shot he necessarily wasn't expected to come, despite being sat in behind that shield on Pixel.
But as he's only on 20 HP after that res, he needs to be extra careful. He's not confident playing that position at Pixel any longer, even though his shield hasn't been destroyed. So he's going to back on out. Remember that 1 bullet would have taken him out. So definitely a wise move not to play aggro with low HP. However, Veto seems to be peeking fairly aggressively into Piano, and he might catch off a mission here, looking to come in from stage, but Virtus.pro aren't getting ahead of themselves just yet. WTG to throw through 1 Candela over to Cocktail. I think Shate will be definitely blind with that one. However, there's no execute, so bit of a bait for now.
Yeah, I did wonder when I looked at that and I thought, okay, what's the play? Who moves where off the back of this? And every single member of Virtus.pro outside of Rask, who was stepping between Cigar and Piano, was pretty much static. So a bit of wasted utility there. You're not going to cry over spilt milk too much. Still has 1 left, plus both of the smokes. We saw G2 with a very big focus, and Na'Vi actually implanting right inside of bar itself. Clearly the focus of Virtus.pro is less around that and it's more around taking control of storage. Pasha's going to find Crying, and that is the big fragger that we keep on speaking about for the side of Chaos, down and out.
And in contrast, the big fragger for Virtus.pro stepping up. Pasha once again, and maybe after the back of that pick, will he be allowed to push up white stairs once again? Renewals to find 1 that does refrag eventually, but this nade could be perfect. No, Vido does take him out, and now Chaos looks to be in the advantage. That set a mission, looking to get this plant down. However, the gas chokes him out, all on Shockwave. Now in a 1 versus 3 after that first kill. 1 versus 2 now. Come on, surely this is impossible. Remember, there is time to make this happen. 1 versus 2. Seems like there's info, however, for Chaos. So Shockwave going to be a very difficult clutch for him. Renewal's so low still after getting taken out early. There's a Valkyrie camera just looking at Shockwave. So Chaos going to play fairly passive here. He needs to find these 2 picks. Pick in. What? You're not meant to do that. Thankfully, Renewals is there to refrag. Otherwise, that would have detrimental to Chaos, who finally do get around on the board.
Big for Renewals at the very end there. It was a risk to take that one as well. They had to make sure they were peaking at the exact same time. Otherwise, that could have been 2 split 1v1s coming through for the side of Shockwave, and that would have been horrific to give away around like that. The mid-round there, a little bit better. I think Virtus.pro a bit one-dimensional in their kind of approach in towards storage. Didn't really manage to win any fights through there with the Maestro sat inside of Freezer itself. So it's a round on the board, but let's not get too excited, because the one thing we have to see is a bit of repetition and consistency going across rounds here. We may well step into the next 2 and see Virtus.pro to take the next 2, and suddenly it's say, oh, we're at the half and it's 5-1. Things don't look good.
Even the 3-3 here is pretty good for Virtus.pro, in my opinion. That said, if Chaos do claw it back with those 3 in a row, if they get the next 2 rounds, they will have momentum on their side, which will potentially help them on the attacking side. I've got to say, I've been hugely impressed by Virtus.pro, though, so far. And even that round just there, it was just some minor things that lost it for them. And I know it ended up in a 1 versus 4, and you think, oh, well, that's a landslide. Like, Chaos won that convincingly. Well, that might be true. We saw a lot of good things from Virtus.pro. They found the opening pick. They had great control early on. They just messed up on taking out a few of those anchors, in particular the player that was in Freezer. After they opened up the backstore wall with Thermite, they weren't able to flush out that player from Freezer. A grenade was just unfortunately mistimed, and then the Maestro peaked. So a lot of mistakes that I think could be definitely corrected for Virtus.pro. That said, they won't be attacking that bomb site again, because now that Chaos have won it, it's locked for the next 2 rounds. So it's really on Chaos now, I guess, to show that they can replicate those corrections on their defense, moving over to Reading and or Kitchen.
My big fear, I think, with how things have played out so far for Chaos is it's been very passive, right? You look at how Virtus.pro have approached things. First round was that East push we saw come through. Kind of hard to contest that one. Fair enough. The next couple of rounds, when we've then seen ourselves going down to the 2nd floor on the ground floor inside a kitchen, I was like, okay, this is the time to get on the roam here, start causing some trouble. We saw Cryan try that maybe once in that round just a second ago, and he got picked up by Pasha pretty comfortably. They're not in a spot where they feel comfortable with being able to go and cause trouble around the map. That is just letting Virtus.pro get inside the building in their own pace, in their own time, set up to go for an execute, and then actually being able to do it without much interruption. The only gunfights they have to worry about are the ones when it comes with the burst in towards the site. that just lets teams feel far too comfortable. And I think they need to be disrupting Virtus.pro here. The same way that we saw teams like BDS do is get up in their face and start upsetting them so they can't play the games that they want to.
That said, Chaos has provided a counter here to that Ying that previously flushed out Bakery control in the late to mid round, and that's Renewals playing the Warden. So later on in this round, what is that? Later in the round, we'll likely look to Renewals to hold on here to Bakery. But of course, for now, as was the common in the previous round, Virtus.pro not focusing on Bakery at the start. They're focusing on map control, opening up the floor, as they've done with half the round subsided, and Ras going to look for kills through the floor. Previously, it was opened up where there was a little team kill from Pasha onto, I think it was Rask or Shockwave. So hopefully Virtus.pro can find the opening engagement here, and that will set them up really well. But remembering, keeping in the back of your mind that Bakery control is going to be much harder to get now that there's a Warden on the board.
Yeah, it's taken them a couple of rounds to adapt to seeing this Nomad and Ying combo coming through, but they finally brought it along to try and answer it, it feels like. It's Renewals is kind of playing these flex operators, right? We saw him on Mozzie a couple of rounds ago. This time around, he's on the Warden just to try and stop these executes being so impactful, because we saw them flood out a couple of sites now with all those Candelas, with the smokes coming out at the same time. It's made it a little bit too simple and easy for the side of Virtus.pro. So I'm liking at least we are seeing that adaptation, but we'll see if they're prepared to deal with what Virtus.pro bring to the table.
And now we see Pasha very keen to take control of VIP, where Veto is holding, but Emission actually executes onto the bomb site thanks to some Candelas and smokes from WTG. But Chaos are ready to respond here. Kryne prepping himself, but he's taking a lot of damage here. Renewals as well trying to get into an impactful position, but Emission gets forced out thanks to the gas, and they're finished off by Renewals. Miscommunications or something from VP, and that leaves them in a numbers deficit with just a few seconds to go. They do reply, but still that plan is denied once again. 3 players left for Chaos. Pasha and WTG got to step it up huge, but I just don't see this being possible. Chaos gonna fight back, and there you have it. They get their second defense round.
I mean, you say it was a miscommunication, and more like a misawareness of exactly what's going on your HUD. Like, you can see you're taking damage from smoke. It's going to kill you if you stay there, buddy. And, well, free call being given away. It was nice. I think that's the one time that you saw this working the way Chaos wanted, right? Where you sit back a little bit deeper on site and you play for these longer angles once the push actually comes through. That played nicely for them. A bit one-dimensional from Virtus.pro, and all they were really trying to push down was white stairs and looking in towards the fireplace hatch. It kind of drops you into freezer where you have a single door or a double window to jump out of. It's never comfortable because the defenders can just sit and watch those angles and wait for you to peek your head around the corner like a mole or something. So, comfortable for Chaos? Maybe we see ourselves going to 3-3 here, and I'd be happy if I was Virtus.pro coming into the half at 3-3 anyway, but there is still a potential for a 4-2.
Yeah, for me, the big thing that's working out for Chaos now in those latter 2 rounds is the smoke. Late round, Virtus.pro trying to go for that execute, but instead of trying to overrun the entire objective and go for frags while forcing a plant down or what have you, they try and play fairly passively. It's like, okay, let's just get the plant down and we'll cover you while you're planting. Doesn't work so much when there's a smoke on the board and that gas is denying the area in which you need to plant. And we saw that's 2 rounds in a row where Emission has been, I mean, got to feel sorry for the man at the moment, right? Like, it's 2 rounds in a row he's been like, I just want to plant this diffuser, but I'm getting choked out. So maybe the way that VP can address that is either playing a bit more aggressively to take full site control rather than playing a more passive plant style, or secondarily, they could just try to play more efficient in the early round so they have more time to bait out the smokes in the late round. Now, both of those are easier said than done, but Virtus.pro, we need to take some initiative now that Chaos has stepped up their game.
It's how they can break this bunker open almost. This very static setup coming out of Chaos so far that has done them well in the last round, admittedly, and somewhat in the prior round. It's about trying to turn it into that 6th round, like we've mentioned now a couple of times. Of course, guys, we aren't oblivious to the fact there are a couple of issues going on right now. We'll aim to get those addressed as soon as we can. But for the side of Virtus.pro, it's going to be a pretty standard take, I think, to begin here. Take over the side of Piano and Red Stairs. Get yourself inside the building. Get the drone workout. In this case here, keeping the safety of the roof to make sure those drones can get inside without anyone trying to charge at you and causing a little bit of chaos. No pun intended. We are looking down towards that reading site. Now, last time round, what we saw from Chaos was a very heavy upstairs hold, and all it took was for Virtus.pro to get themselves inside of pillars, open up the wall, and get themselves a plant inside of smoke with some candelas to provide cover for the sound of the plant going down. Here, you've got Red Groove playing in a spot where he wasn't last time, where he should be able to deny the plant if it comes down to it.
And that's what's super key, isn't it? We mentioned the gas from Red Groove. If he can just chuck one of those straight into the smoke as it's deployed by WTG, that just puts up a blanket stop on Virtus.pro's plans. But VP have actually changed their tack here. They're going for a full top floor clear, which I think is the right decision. In fact, the last time Chaos defended Reading, I thought it was their best defense round to date, the best defense out of their first three, which they all lost. So it really is on Virtus.pro here to step it up. They're taking top floor control, which does, of course, make things a bit difficult when they've got to contend with things like C4s from below, and there's good information gathering from Shate in particular on that Valkyrie, plus a few pre-placed holes, pre-opened holes, I should say, in the floor already. So they're going to drone up, make sure Cocktail's clear, then try and take this ground. But of course, that's going to leave them with very little time to execute, in which case Red Groove's gas canisters will be even more punishing.
Well, KS have dropped away a little bit more freely this time around. They have got most of them playing downstairs around the site, and you've got Cryan looking to play at the bottom of Red Stairs. I don't think Shockwave is going to be heading towards Red Stairs, so unless there is a flank drone up there watching, he could yet come up behind them and cause some trouble when they look to try and execute inside of pillars. That seems to be the play for them right now. The Thermite was the first to drop down, which just screams to me that he wants to be the one getting this wall open. I say that, and that wall will most definitely not get open now he's gone down, and in fact, a couple of smokes come out, and Chaos bite back in fashion.
Wow.
3 kills flying their way. Virtus.pro been completely shut out of this round.
Doesn't look possible now. Pasha's good, but not that good. And Chaos, after losing the first 3 defenses, make a full sweep of those bomb sites, correct all their mistakes in dominant fashion. And that's really going to put the momentum on Chaos's side. And Virtus.pro, the Russians, will have to step it up now that they're on their own defense.
It's horrible when we start talking about a team and it's like, yeah, Virtus.pro doing really well. First 3 rounds, we wonder what team are going to wake up, and then you get into the next 3 and Chaos are like, hang on a minute, let's just turn our PCs on and start playing, right? It was a really good last couple of rounds. Yes, it was very static, except for that final round when they did rotate back downstairs. You saw them bringing along shields on at least a couple of operators in most of those rounds as well, just being very aware with that Goyo band away. They do want to have some way of slowing down the attackers. But equally on the attacking side, it left them with a little bit of flexibility. They could bring along the Ying and the Nomad, which isn't what we're used to seeing. Normally you see a Zofia is a must pick because you need to be able to destroy this utility at range. So nice to see a bit of difference coming through, I guess, in terms of playstyle. It is a lot more about the execute with the Ying, for example. But let's see how things change going into the second half. Chaos is still going to bring along that Nomad, but to flex things in, they're bringing along the IQ as well.
It does leave a little bit to be desired in terms of explosives. So just the 2 grenades and the 2 breaching rounds from Ash to get rid of any shields. But with Goyo banned, I think Chaos can kind of afford to do that a little bit. So perhaps that's part of the idea here, freeing that operator composition with the Goyo ban. And of course, that only leaves us with just the 2 shields, thanks to Smoke and Wamai. But I think I'm pretty confident here that Chaos can get rid of all that. They've got plenty of flashbangs to burn through magnets and ADSs. But the thing that I want to talk about here for Chaos is that IQ pick. Now, we actually saw IQ banned out recently. It was by Na'Vi against G2 on this exact map. And you actually had to speak to, I think it was Kenju, right, after the game. And he said the reason why IQ is so good here on Cafe is you can go up to the roof, as you see right now with Veto, and get on that scanner. You can call out the positions of all of the defender's utility, all of the ADSs, whatever it is, Maestro cams, absolutely anything, and you can IGL your entire push based on that.
And that's exactly what he was doing there, right? They were trying to find where these couple of crucial gadgets were. I believe it was a magnet they found attached to the ceiling, so they know that needs to be burnt out or at least destroyed before they can start trying to go for grenades in towards the back end of the site, for example, or trying to catch someone out. They only have a couple of grenades, so they need to count. And it's Renewals in that case who's bringing those along. It has been a slow start, mind you. Yes, we're only 60 seconds in, so there's still a lot of time to go, but it's only Renewals currently playing around inside of sight. The rest of the team is still making sure they can get this double wall in towards Red Stairs open, and the next objective, no doubt, is going to be forcing these guys away from playing on Pixel. Rask was down there a second ago, and now Pasha's had to back away and get himself back inside of storage to help them contest on towards the wall.
And despite that IQ being there, I'm pretty sure that Renewals has just wasted 1 frag grenade, and we've also had Cryan waste 1 breaching round from the Ash just to clear that shield. And finally, the shield is clear, but we have no more breaching rounds from Ash and no more grenades from Renewals. So I commended Chaos for the fact that they'd probably be effective using this explosive utility, but they're actually completely out right now. They've only gotten rid of 1 of the deployable shields, and they haven't got rid of either of the Evil Eyes from Emission. So I'm actually pretty cautious here for Chaos, and Virtus.pro definitely have a chance, even playing passive as they are now.
And the left is free to wall soft as well, which makes it an interesting case because with the shields behind it, it's very, very tough to sit inside a piano and feel comfortable as the attacker. So it's just Virtus.pro trying to say, don't get too comfortable, guys, because we're always watching, we're always waiting with the shields that we love so much, even with the Goyo being banned away. Down to this final 60 seconds, though, and not a whole lot has changed. I say that as Shockwave gets himself down. He's not out just yet, but he's pretty much most of the way there. Looking at the drones on the side of Chaos as well, only 3 remain alive. That could come back to bite them big time as we start looking towards these final executes, as they start to lose an idea on where these defenders are playing.
This is pivotal now for Chaos. They need to find a few opening picks, but Kryne is shut out thanks to the gas. WTG making a lot of impact with this gas, but Chaos is fighting back. 2 versus 4 now for VP, all on a mission and WTG. Chaos trying to push forward, remembering that they are on the streak right now. A mission gets caught out, but still alive. Completely taken out. What is this? WTG, the last man to clutch it. Just 10 seconds left, but no plant coming down just yet for Chaos. Trying to barter with this SMG-11 at the moment, but he's being pushed. He doesn't know where anything's happening. There's still no plant down for Chaos. What is happening? Nothing is happening. Finally, Shate tries to get this plant down, but WTG is going to be able to deny that perfectly. What a messy round for Chaos. WTG to clutch it in that 1v whatever.
It's horrible because that was a situation where they had Veto on the roof for most of that round playing on the IQ. We called about it at the start. I was like, yeah, it's really good. You can OGL your whole round. And he was doing it until like 20 seconds are left on the clock and they were in a numbers advantage of a 1v1, I think, on site, despite it saying 2 versus 1 on the screen. This is the risk that you have, I think, when you're trying to play with the IQ to be this IGLer for you, is that if you do lose a good few people inside, you're permanently in a 5 versus 4. That numbers advantage can really, really hurt. And trying to jump down inside a Skylight, for example, you might be jumping straight into your doom if you don't have intel. And we touched on how many drones they had left. The answer wasn't an awful lot. And it's just the end there that didn't work well for them, because Chaos did so well to begin with getting those opening 3 kills. But we've got a game on our hands. I think that's pretty much the only fair thing we can take from that round.
Both these teams are fighting back and forth for sure, but just going back to that IQ for a minute, we were talking about how IQ can be used to IGL your whole push. You know where all the utility is, so you know how to use the exact counters at the right time, not waste any utility. And despite that, all 4 explosives, both grenades from the Sledge and both breaching rounds from the Ash, were used on that one shield at Pixel.
Yeah. I have a feeling that maybe one of the breaching charges were used elsewhere, right? Maybe not on the shield, but I know that they burnt a hell of a lot trying to do it. Yeah, I don't know if they burnt 2 Zofia impacts, a frag grenade, 2 frag grenades actually, and everything else on it, right? It would have been a bit excessive.
They didn't have a Zofia, did they? It was just the Ash. I'm pretty sure that one of the breaching rounds got burnt by the magnet.
Yeah, and I think it was a frag that came through and killed it afterwards, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly.
We're playing the guessing game here. We would have known, but unfortunately still trying to address that issue.
Yes.
It's why you keep on jumping back to us here on the desk. Sorry about this, guys.
Yep. But that said, it shows that we can see some disruption of the momentum from Virtus.pro, and that's the main thing I was worried about for them. Looking at Chaos coming in with 3 straight rounds, surely that puts Virtus.pro on the back foot, and maybe they struggle to find their feet on these defenses, but not so. They do clutch that one out, and it was a clutch. They were at a numbers deficit. Chaos found quite a few frags, but just lacks that push, that guts to just get in there and finish the job. But no guts lacking this round as Kryne getting in. You can see about 1 million drones supporting him on this entry, and as this is a kitchen defense, Chaos going for an entire map clear, and it seems like, for now at least, no pressure from Virtus.pro upstairs.
No, they are pretty much on the downstairs. Don't see it on north. Nope, pretty much on the downstairs. In this case, indeed, they are with Rask off towards the western side of Bakery. That is all but confirmed. So actually, somewhat a similar style to what we saw coming out of Chaos. There is a bit of an attempt to hold in towards red hallway and red stairs from WTG. I believe they've got a shield playing inside that double doorway that looks down red hallway, actually. So as long as they don't concede control of brown stairs, they should be in an okay spot. It's a lot of kind of covering each other's back angles here to make sure things don't feel too uncomfortable for them. I like the attempt. I like the, I suppose, ability to try and hold the perimeter of the site rather than just the site itself. But the problem is the attackers have full control of the upstairs in rapid style. And already with these holes being opened up, it's going to be Veto finding an opening kill onto Shockwave.
Good start here for Chaos. They got so close on that last round. But still working this floor is Chaos. 1 minute left for Virtus.pro to burn. And they're trying to play passive as much as possible. No attempt at flanking. Probably a smart move with the Nomad on the board. Just trying to vacate site as much as possible. Pasha to fight back. He gets traded. That's control of VIP as well for Chaos. Mission, though, is a hair's breadth away to refrag, but it's WGG that gets one, and the plant's going down. Like, what is this? Surely it's going to get denied, but a C4 team kill. I guess it maybe might not matter here, but I guess it's a 1v1. So, Mission, you better clutch up. No Shate's got it. Man, that was nuts. Chaos to force the plant down with half of VP alive, and then in the post plant too. Ridiculous stuff.
The end of these rounds is feeling a little bit hectic, right? They do all this prep work on the upstairs, make sure they're being able to hold angles inside of sight, and then there is basically an all or nothing rush coming out of the attackers on Chaos to get inside of Freezer. They're crawling their way underneath Freezer wall, for example, and going for a plant. And a single C4 comes out, gets a team kill, but gets 2 kills on the other side as well. I was just like, why is everyone gathered so close together that there are 3 kills coming out of a C4? It was nuts, and it's these kind of things that lead towards the end of a round that make you question what's happening in the first 2.5 minutes. Is it really worth the time if it's all going to come down to this final kind of push through? I guess, yes, it gave Chaos a kill earlier on in the round and catching the rotation out from a member of Virtus.pro. But outside of that, it just came down to an utter slugfest as the round came to a close.
Yeah, pretty crazy that what my interpretation of what was happening there is Chaos obviously working the floor, trying to get that vertical game going. VP are like, okay, we can't play in the objective because you're vulnerable to the ceiling that's opened up by Chaos. So they play in bakery, they play in small bakery, they play in prep, they play in as many areas as they can. There was a player in reception, a player in the bar downstairs as well. Places that they can't get taken out from above. But the problem was Chaos is like, oh, site's free. It's free real estate. Let's go in. Let's try and force that plant down. Clearly, VP didn't have enough info because by the time that Wamai finally went in to swing those planters, there was miscommunication. The C4 comes out, like team kills. It's really tough. Like VP have got to be kicking themselves when they lose such a winnable situation like that. And it's a lot of fundamentals that are going wrong here. No info on site, like no miscommunications about who's denying the plant where, and that was such a winnable round, and it just slipped through their fingers.
Let's not forget as well, it was Shate who got inside of the backside as well, got himself inside of Cooking and managed to get behind them on a bit of a flank as they were trying to focus on what was going on around the bomb site itself. So good play from him to come down red stairs and make that happen. Obviously worked wonders for them to secure the round. It does put us at 4-4, and I won't lie, even after 8 rounds, I'm still none the wiser as to who's actually going to take this game.
Yeah, tit for tat here on Virtus.pro's defense. I should have said Chaos's attack. That would have rhymed. Missed opportunity. But we see
no cigar.
Chaos taking this to close, but no cigar. No, they've taken cigar. Crying's already passed through.
Yes. All right, Dad joke. Calm down.
Yeah, I can't let you one up me on the dad jokes, all right?
No,
but
fair enough.
For now, it does look very much similar kind of thing, Chaos. I feel like they could have made this a lot more efficient if they just pre-placed drones and said, okay, no one's top floor. If you just have a drone on the red stairs, a drone on the brown stairs, and a drone on white stairs, you have someone flicking between all 3. You can say, okay, no one went upstairs. And then you don't actually have to enter and clear the entire top floor. But nonetheless, Chaos have made this ground, and we'll see whether they can make good time with what's left at clearing out these players downstairs. Of course, they did find the opening pick on the last attack of this bomb site, and they managed to take VIP pretty successfully as well. So I'm really looking at Chaos now and saying, how is this verticality going to be utilized? Will it be successful? And will Crime be able to take out Pasha, who is in a power position holding VIP as the smoke?
They know there's an electro claw here in the back corner, and it has been dealt with. So they could finally get this open. I imagine that's exactly why they were trying to send Cryin down the stairs. And Pasha was rising up to try and match him, but I think it's a little bit too quick for him there. Couldn't deal with it. The hatch is open. It feels very, very reminiscent of what we saw happen in the last round. It's going to be this explosion onto site through the fireplace hatch that, to me, is going to be what it's all decided by. We saw both C4s used by Virtus.pro, and no kills have yet to come through for either side.
But still, Chaos are looking through this floor, trying to find players, and VP have taken a bit of damage for it, notably Shockwave so low. And Redgroove with the diffuser in hand. Pasha's going to deny his entry for now, and there's the pick from a mission. That's why VP are contesting these holes. They back themselves in those gunfights, but even if Chaos decide to go for that execute through the hatch, Pasha has control of VIP. But Virtus.pro getting lit up more and more, and about 35 seconds left, Chaos are in the position to execute, but no numbers advantage.
Ryan has nothing as well to deal with the fact that there's a deployable shield to his right here with, I believe, a smoke sat behind it. Going to have to swing it, but he's going to swing out back on the other side. It's Pasha finding that kill, and with the pressure offstairs, he can rotate himself down. Where is the call that push might come through? It's a 4 versus 2 for Virtus.pro. Make it a 4 versus 1.
Whoa.
The boys keep on trying, but I think with only 10 seconds left, it is a magician's game here for Redgroove to be able to clutch it out. He might be one of the best supports in the league, but sadly, no support can beat the timer. It's going to be Virtus.pro taking another round.
Bit back and forth there, but once again,
Very.
Chaos seemed a little bit short on that exploit utility and weren't able to clear out VIP. Once again, I feel like these smoke players on either team, Red Groove in particular on Chaos' side and Pasha here for Virtus.pro, it seems hugely impactful at delaying those pushes as much as possible, denying certain entryways. Pasha to find particularly that first kill onto the player pushing down white stairs, super impactful, but then, as you said, allowed to flank in through Freezer and take him out. And just look at him at the moment, him and WTG, who I'd say were the most impactful operator choices on their attack as well. Not only topping the scoreboard, but also making a lot of impact plays. And it's not just the number of kills that you've got, but it's how many of what kind of an impact those gave you. At the moment, Virtus.pro have stepped it up, but there's no pattern here. Like, it could be that Chaos comes and takes this next one. It's so difficult to know until you actually get into the round and the timer starts ticking.
Oh, man. I mean, that was another case of getting to the final 45 seconds and only having one drone left alive there. I think it was Shate's drone that was up. So they were literally trying to push in blind. They were dropping through a hatch blind. They were trying to push their way down white stairs blind. You saw Cryan being like, well, is he behind the shield? Is he hanging around the corner? I don't know. And then dies to Pasha for free. And it's these things like getting towards the late stage of the round and having next to no intel on what's going on that are really going to unsettle you. And it feels that although Virtus.pro weren't necessarily the cleanest in their attacking half, in the first 3 rounds they definitely were, in the final 3, at least there was still something going for them in the dying moments of a round. It just so happened that Chaos managed to swing the kills out. Whereas here, outside of a hero play coming out of someone like Red Groove or Veto, Virtus.pro just aren't really being stretched, I don't feel.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to be looking once again at Chaos here and how they're going to use this explosive utility to clear out these power positions, particularly Pixel, where we're likely to see Pasha play. It's Rask at the moment, actually. And we'll likely see Vito once again go to the roof with that IQ and try to IGL his team, but I'd like to see a bit more efficient use of that electronics detector, or at least coordinate with the team to make sure that the team isn't just stacking a utility, but maybe they're going for an east side push here. Perhaps that's what's telegraphed now by Vita repelling on the east side and seeing that a lot of the utility has been placed around Pixel and other sides of the west on the map. Now, perhaps Chaos is going for a full rotate here.
They could be, although the common thing is normally you stick 1 or 2 up on the east windows just to try and make the defenders squirm a little bit, because if you're on these east windows and they know that you're nearby, they have to put some attention on you, whether they're trying to look for a jump out or a run out, or whether they're just being conscious of the fact that you can hold really awkward angles like this one that Vito has got here. If they can pinch this member who's playing up on the new hatch, well, not new hatch, sorry, new balcony up towards the north, and he has to run down through, chances are he might get himself a little bit caught out. And I'm a total liar, because it turns out actually Emission's just sat on the table inside a bar. I didn't realize he's on the window, to be fair there. But either way, if he has to rotate down here, he is dead. It's going to be Cryan downstairs. So they had 2 or 3 people all watching the angle there. One watching on the north window, one watching on the one towards the south, and one watching downstairs. There was 0 chance he got out of there alive.
Definitely seems to be an ease push thus far for Chaos. And now Virtus.pro going to try and deny that as much as possible. WTG to throw a gas on the floor so that it blocks Vito from contesting that window. But Cryan's still below and trying to flush out these positions from Cocktail. You'll notice that no one from VP is playing Cocktail anymore. A mission taken down. That leaves Virtus.pro in a really difficult position. But potentially they'll go for a reroam here. Rask now taken out. This is getting very scary for VP. Chaos have almost all the control that they want. But Pasha's going to fight back. Going to get an engagement with Cryan, but he wins that fight. 2 versus 4 now. Getting very difficult for VP, but still clutchable. However, there's so much time left for Chaos to make this happen.
Charges way past the window there, WTG. Must know surely that there's a bit of a focus coming into these windows now. Believes there's 3 on the rappel out towards the east. And he can find himself in a similar situation to his dear friend Emission here, being sandwiched into a corner unless he is careful. We've already seen him clutch out of 1 versus 3 once. I'm not quite sure if Lightning will strike twice. Shockwave playing down towards the south. He's going to find himself peeked out. So it's Shockwave all by himself here, playing inside a white corridor in a 1 versus 4 with 20 seconds to go. Let's hope to God that Chaos don't throw this one away.
Surely not possible. 14 seconds left. Shockwave. He has a C4. He could toss it and try and deny this plant. Gets it out. Is it going to deny it? No. It misses, and Red Groove now still going to stick that plant. Chaos, don't let Shockwave get anything. And that is another round on the board for Chaos. Dancing back and forth, these teams going the distance.
Oh, this half has literally been Virtus.pro Chaos, Virtus.pro Chaos. The first
Yep.
half was 3 rounds to Virtus.pro, then 3 rounds to Chaos. They're just choosing a different pattern to kind of dance around each other here. I'm even starting to say maybe a draw's on the way here. And the worst thing is, it's not like we've seen either team step to a whole new level and both are playing really well to fight against each other. It's just turning into an absolute scrap and a slugfest in a way, which, although it can be entertaining at points if you like seeing people running around getting multi-kills, it doesn't instill much faith going into future days that the issues that we saw from both teams last week have strictly been addressed coming into week number 2.
It's funny because between rounds here, some of these teams look like completely different teams. In particular, Chaos, they're going for their attack onto a bar cocktail. That round, not only did they go for a completely different strategy, but they were much more effective, to be frank. Like in previously, when they played bar cocktail, look, they found the opening pick, but just a failure to use their utility to clear out positions, and then they kind of were at an impasse. They didn't know how to progress forward. But this time, Chaos, they knew where to go. They knew that they had to push down below and flush out those players from Cocktail. That worked successfully, and in conjunction with players on East Windows, they just made Virtus.pro squirm until they got ants in their pants, started running around like maniacs, and Chaos found them on those angles, trying to make those rotations. If you make it so there's nowhere for Virtus.pro to sit, then of course Chaos are going to find a few picks, and then it's easier for them to execute. That's such a stark contrast to what we saw previously. So I'm going to credit Chaos there and say that was a good adaptation. But now that we are here, we're at what I like to call breakaway point. Next person to get a point here, next person to get a round win, guarantees that they walk away with 1 point in the standings for tonight, and that they definitely don't lose, and there's a possibility to win here. So the stakes are just rising so much. If the pattern continues, it'll be VP, but honestly, I couldn't call it either way.
You're just waiting for someone to break open the pattern, because right now my spreadsheet tracking these stats looks absolutely beautiful the way it's alternating between the two. But we never know what's going to come into either round. This one, about 30 seconds in, has not really given us too much either. It looks like there is a big focus up towards red stairs and in towards piano, as we come to expect. A little bit of a roam game coming out of two members of Virtus.pro here. The Jaeger and the Wamai both off roaming downstairs, looking to cause some trouble later on. I would like to see one try and threaten red stairs, but the problem is when you're playing against a Nomad, it is so difficult to do. It is one of the most common air jabs you're going to see in the game, is making sure the red stairs is clear so you can put your entire focus in towards piano and cigar and trying to push across to the east side of the map.
I didn't see a shield at Pixel, however, so I'm a bit confused as to, is there a shield at Pixel? There is. I don't know what happened there.
There's just a massive explosive pack on the back of it, basically.
Yeah, that's it. No Goyo on the board, and well, Renils to push up. Looks like I don't know. Chaos is going back to a west side push, despite that east push really working effectively for them. They think maybe it's not as reliable and won't work a second time. But Ras to find Shate out of the table, nice on and early, and that's that position at Pixel not counted yet. You can see those ADSs chiming on away, and Rask very confident, very eager to contest this angle. And now it's going to be difficult for Chaos to clear it now that they've lost those 3 stun grenades from Shate.
It's difficult. They are still having got to burn through one more of these. That one at the top isn't glowing, therefore it's no longer active. Ed has been disabled, aka it is dead. Going to see such an aggressive push coming out of Crime, but he gets beat across from the side angle by Pasha. Maybe a little bit over aggressive there, but it's going to be Renewals trading it back and then instantly runs into Pasha, I expect. Yes, it is. Inside of storage, finds himself a down. It's not quite a finish off, but they are still holding on to this Pixel angle. We are 2 minutes in, and the Chaos still have not managed to find a way to break this one apart.
Virtus.pro not letting go of Pixel, keeping that aggression up. Pasha to peek on into Cigar, but Red Groove to punish. Red Mules is injured, and I think that Virtus.pro knows about it. Red Groove now looking to contest Shockwave. Vito might try and pick up his teammate. Shockwave gets off that position at Pixel. That gas coming out, surely they knew Renewals was down. That's why they're trying to commit to it. But just 25 seconds left now in a 3 versus 3. Virtus.pro have to hold fast here. Chaos looking to get aggressive, and that shotgun of Shockwave to find one. Just needs to hold the line here. Finds a second, all on Red Groove here against Shockwave. And the shotgun's going to find... No, that's the SMG-11 to find another one. And that is Virtus.pro to get themselves onto match point.
Horrible thing again is with 30 seconds left, there were no drones alive. They had to try and push and make something happen, because in the rest of the round they'd achieved diddly squat. They got themselves somewhat inside a cigar. Someone had gone down. They managed to get some air jabs on red stairs. That was about all they'd achieved. And I really hate to kind of harp on a team here and the things that are going wrong, but if it's taking you 2.5 minutes to even look at trying to push in towards White Corridor or look towards Bar, there is going to be a problem. You're literally leaving it to the last second when you're going in blind. And that was the big thing that I think really came back to sting Chaos there. Virtus.pro might just be able to snatch this one away in this dying round if they get this final defense right. And with how that last round went, I have a feeling that Chaos are just kind of slipping away from themselves a little bit here. We're going to see a Buck brought on those as 6th pick. That could be interesting.
Yeah, funnily enough, the Mozzie brought out as well from Virtus.pro, as well as the Valkyrie, means that IQ would have been even more powerful. But perhaps we're seeing the attack trying to favor that verticality a bit more, which is funny to me because when Virtus.pro were playing on the defense, it didn't seem like Chaos's verticality was super successful at actually finding kills. They opened up the floor really successfully, but Virtus.pro just moved themselves out of positions where that verticality was a factor. So perhaps Chaos here is expecting something else. Maybe they're expecting a reading defense, because to me, I just don't understand quite why the Buck pick would be favorable over the IQ pick, particularly for this bomb site. If anything, for Chaos, the thing I think is maybe lacking in their operator comp is a little bit more soft breach to clear out those 2 deployable shields that are brought, in particular the one that's at VIP, where Pasha has been so impactful in the past.
There's definitely a big investment in making sure those grenades coming out of renewals are put to good use. There is, of course, the breaching rounds as well, which they can make use of. So there are probably 4 opportunities here they really have to remove key utility on the other side. We've seen them burn a lot of utility trying to get rid of the pixel shield earlier on. It wasn't fun. The one thing I will say for the side of Chaos here is the fact they've got the Sledge and the Buck together means they want to open up the entirety of this floor. They want to get everything open, make Virtus.pro squirm, don't let them sit in the back of sight and spray you as you're running through Freezer. So there is at least some focus here on adaptation, I feel, and trying to make sure the same mistakes as the previous 2 times they've attacked this site don't come to bear once more.
But for Chaos now, once again, going for this entire map clear. Very difficult to execute in the final moments if you've wasted your entire round trying to get this clear. And once again, there is no contest at all from Virtus.pro, at least not on the top floor. Remembering that they're probably going to, once again, play fairly patient, maybe play a few C4s. And yep, again, no one playing to contest this roam for Virtus.pro. Chaos, now they finally realize that. They cleared it, but they've wasted a minute now. And next step is to start opening up this floor, as they will do now. Renewal's in a position in mining, but Shockwave, I have no doubt he has Valkyrie cameras, Black Eyes, ready to use this and the C4 to take out some of these players from VP.
Where's Veto going? He just ran straight through the 2 sites where they had a lot of self-destruction work to do and just yeeted himself outside. He's back in now, so it's something. I'm not quite sure what those last 30 seconds were all about. Those 30 seconds could be crucial for them as it comes into the dying moments. But like I said, the focus is get as much of this floor opened up as they can. I believe there was a C4 that just came out of Shockwave there a second ago, trying to connect on towards Renewals, but he keeps himself alive. So with these angles being set up here out towards the west, I would assume there is going to be less focus in towards the drop hatch in this case.
Wow.
In this case, there might be a massive focus towards anything else except that, because Emission's managed to find himself 2 kills onto both of the soft breaches. That is massive for Virtus.pro.
Right when they needed to lock this game in, Virtus.pro changed something. Finally, we've had no roamers here on this kitchen for either team. And Emission says, well, I guess you're not watching enough, so I'm going to go and punish you guys for that. Chaos is going to be fighting from behind now. Maybe it was there and Emission took it out, but
maybe,
I don't know. There was a huge oversight there. Chaos is dedicating now to a bakery push, and they've evened up the mound count. Crying now pushing on through, but that deal isn't done yet. 30 seconds left, and well, this is great ground taken for Chaos, but they'll have to do something mad with it in the next few seconds.
Come on, boys, you can make this happen now, but you're running into smoke canisters, and there's still another one out on the field they can still use here. Crying's going to have to push himself in through prep instead if he wants to make this work. He cannot stay here. 10 seconds to go. They're still being spotted out by Gadgets. It's turning into a bit of a mess at the better end of this one. WTG with red corridor covered. Pasha finds the final 2. What a game he has had on the leaderboard. It's Virtus.pro taking it 7-5, and my God, was that a game and a half, Dev?
Wow, back and forth, really. I mean, credit to Virtus.pro. In that second half, they were the only team to get 2 rounds in a row, and that's exactly what got them across the line. Great stuff by the end of it from VP, but man, a bit of a roller coaster, up and down. Chaos had some fantastic rounds, but I guess the 7-5 victory was well-deserved for Virtus.pro, and that 5 rounds on the board, much better than Chaos for what they saw last week.
I'd say some of it looked good for both sides. There were elements of strength, but the number of times we saw attackers deviating away from what should have been the go-to strategy. We saw in that final round the big focus on getting a lot of soft flooring up and restricting the defenders. Didn't really get to happen when you got someone running up downstairs and killing 2 or 3 of you. It just isn't a pretty picture, I think. And for both of these teams, ahead of the next Playday on Wednesday, there is still going to be some work to do. But we've got to put some people of our own to work here. Let's go over to the analyst desk and see what they've got to say about that game.
So much, Des. Yes, time for us to start talking about this. And actually, let's start off on a positive note, and there's many positive notes to go through it. Geo, VP, they finally put up some points on the board.
Yeah, as soon as it got to the point where they had made 6 rounds, I turned around to you two and I was like, hey guys, VP, they got their first point. they're no longer sat at 0 anymore. So at least that's cause for celebration there. And Jess, I have to, maybe we could take some credit. We both said 7 and 5. We just got them slightly the wrong way around, but I would say that's still a win.
We knew what we meant. We were just
knew what
creating
we
conversation, right? We just wanted someone to disagree with us out there. That's what it was.
Just get me out of
Exactly.
here, honestly. You guys are right. That's of course that's always how it is. I've learned the hard way. So there it is, VP getting points. But let's talk about Chaos for just a moment here, because Jess, Chaos had mistakes and then they learned from them. It's not like it was a shutout.
Yeah, I think in the first 3 or so rounds, VP was just taking advantage of very minor weaknesses in the setup of Chaos. I want to give a shout out to Chaos because their setups actually were quite well set up.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very impressed by them. But then I saw guys like Pasha, a couple of WTG, for example, who just walked in really small gaps, took advantage of man count, and then rotated back and held angles. I mean, that kind of breaching of the site, is really necessary if you want to be able to get man count in your favor, especially when you're on attack. So VP started off well. Then Chaos turned around and went, hang on, we know exactly what they're doing. Why don't we just triangulate them and get them with our crossfiring? And I thought that was a really good adaptation from Chaos. They said, let's not peak one-on-one. We're losing our one-on-ones. These guys are having a day and a half on their gun skill, so we need to put 2 in there to make sure that we confirm that kill or at least refrag. And I saw a lot of double peaking from Chaos, and that was a lot of the reason as to why they got so close to that draw today.
Yeah, and we're talking about people kind of popping off today. Gio, we showed off both Shate and Pasha in their comparison, pre-game. And I think you could definitely say that they showed up today, right?
Yeah, both of them did. I mean, they both got, a few examples of some multi-kills and looked a lot more confident. And one of the things with Pasha particularly is we noticed maybe somewhat of a role swap, especially in that first half. Usually you would expect to see Pasha taking on the Sledge and Rask being on the Ash, but actually instead they were switched around. And, when you look at the stats from the last couple of Playdays and you see Rask hadn't necessarily been showing up as much as we would want to see from him, some negative KDs and things like that, which you don't really want from an entry player. The fact that Pasha has shown that he's been able to do that role swap really looked to be somewhat beneficial for them. And I'm actually going to be very interested to see if that's something they continue forward in the play days to come, especially given that they've, won this series, and that could be one of the changes that they did off the back of.
All right, definitely so. We'll look forward to it, of course, on Wednesday for next Playday. Let's take a look at our rankings. We had a victory today, and that was Virtus.pro. They go up with extra 3 points, and they're right under Team Empire. Of course, more of these matches will continue as we go during the day today. And with 10 teams, it means, as usual, we have 5 matches to go through. Chaos VP was game number 1. We'd like to apologize to everybody, including the coaches and the teams. I know you guys are definitely not happy. We definitely are not. And the production is currently working on fixing the audio issues that everybody has kind of felt over this first game. On everything's fixed back up, we'll be ready to go to game number 2. That's G2 versus Empire right after the break.